Hi everyone, we're coming at you for one more live beach monitoring event. We are checking in with our team here, so let me flip this around. And we're doing our best to get this monitoring done before a very large rain cloud is headed our way. Can't quite tell from where you are, but from where we are it looks rather ominous. So we're just here at Sunrise Beach. If you're warm and cozy at home and want to post where you're watching from, that's always good for us to know. And we're just kind of waiting for the tide to go out so that we can get exposed to a little bit more beach. And we're doing these quadrats here where we're basically counting all the things that are in there. And so this one doesn't have a whole lot, but we do have some aggregating anemones. This is one of the softer bodied animals that we see on the beach and always a welcome sight. These are carnivorous animals. They have stinging cells that capture prey like small amphipods and copepods and shrimp and crabs. They will also eat anything dead that lands on them, which is kind of neat too. We've got a little bit of algae here, not a ton. But when we get into areas that have more substrate, we can see a little bit more life. So here's one of those aggregating anemones on a rock. And these ones are fairly small right here, but we do have larger ones. About maybe 3 inches across is about as big as we see here. And each one of these little quadrats has been measured already. So we're counting the species and the percentage cover of the algae. And we've got a handful of fun folks out here working tonight.
You want to know what we're discussing?
What are you discussing?
Crunchy versus smooth peanut butter.
Oh, smooth all the way. And only Jif.
Oh my goodness.
And only Jif.
Wow.
Guys.
This is Rachel.
Yes, hi. Say hi to Facebook. We've got, gosh, all the awesome people are awake right now at home, just waiting for our live videos.
Welcome to the rainy beach here at Sunrise.
The low tide tonight is like at 12:30, so I don't think we're gonna be out here that late. Hopefully not. It's a negative 2.3 foot tide, I think, for this location. So yeah.
We're waiting for the -1 to uncover.
Go water, go.
A really nice steep beach, so the surveying goes really quick, and we've gone faster than the tide has gone out. Also, something we do is we check based on the weather and the barometric pressure. So the tide is actually higher right now than it's predicted.
Okay.
So then we're having to
You have to adjust and wait longer.
But we just finished up.
It's really unfortunate that we can't control the tides, because I think honestly if that were going to be my superpower, that's what I would choose. But we're just so close to the eelgrass beds. It's where all the interesting stuff is. So we wait. I'm going to walk down the beach a little bit and see if I can't find some creatures. Do you have anything you want to add closely to my microphone?
A 6th grade leather star somewhere
Ooh,
around here.
all right. I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah, it's exciting. But
Nice. A little bit of a freak of nature.
yeah.
Nice.
You're like doing our free sea star.
Yeah, I did a video sea star survey yesterday. Anyway, so while we wait for the tide to uncover those lower tidal heights, you can ask any questions in the comments. Oh, here we go. We've already got some creatures to talk about. So this is a leather sea star. This is also a leather sea star, and we're looking at pretty small ones here right at this moment. The larger sea stars will be a little bit deeper in the water. And this is a species that we see a lot of, especially in the wake of sea star wasting syndrome, which has been active in our waters since about 2013. And that disease has taken down the number of sunflower sea stars. And what that's done is opened up more habitat and removed pressure from predation on these leather stars. So we see that they have quite bloomed. The color difference is due to genetics and maybe a little bit of diet. And some sea stars also develop kind of protective coloration against built-in sunscreen, like a tan. I don't know with this species if they do that, but we've seen that in other echinoderms as well. So we're getting close to the lower tides where we can start to see this eelgrass exposed. That's really critical habitat here in the Salish Sea. And one of the main reasons for eelgrass being so important is that lots of animals live on it. So it's a good place for creatures to hide. It kind of buffers the wave action a little bit, and so it reduces erosion and scouring of the fine sediments, which helps stabilize the beaches a bit. And a lot of fish actually like to spawn on it. So herring are one species that really likes and prefers the eelgrass, and they will lay their eggs directly on those blades of grass. So they have a hard time spawning anywhere where there's not eelgrass because there's nothing to really attach their eggs to. So here's a larger one of these leather sea stars, and this one's a little lifted up so we can see their tube feet underneath. These are the suction cups that they use to move around. These animals are really kind of stuck in one spot while the tide is low. So unfortunately, they can't exactly crawl back to the water during low tide, but it gives us an opportunity to view them. They are very hardy creatures, and they can survive out of water for a number of hours, especially on a cold, wet night like tonight. The air temperature is about the same temperature as the water, right around 45 degrees Fahrenheit, so they're totally comfortable right now. And they're all really well adapted to living life in this very treacherous intertidal zone. So yeah, I'm just walking along, seeing what we can see, and we'll check in with our beach monitoring community science team in a little bit. We're in a pretty rocky section of beach here, and if I head up, there are some perfect rocks for flipping. A lot of the animals are going to be sheltering underneath rocks, so rolling them over is a good way to observe the wildlife, but I want to pick small rocks. So large rocks can be damaging to the animals if we move them. It can also be damaging to yourself. If you've ever gotten scraped on these really rough barnacles, it's painful, and those cuts often get infected. So I'm going to choose a small rock, one that I can lift up, and we'll examine it and see what we can see. Not a lot of crabs, although there are a couple of little ones down in there. But what I'm noticing on the rock is these flatworms. So right here by my thumb, these are Planarians. They're super cute. They have a face, although it's really hard to tell because they're so small. They have tiny little eyes, little light sensing organs. They're really great. Yes, Mary, totally. Red sea star and green algae. If we had big boulders here, I could tell you my favorite Christmas joke, and that is jingle shell, rock. When we find those jingle shells, which is another kind of oyster or clam-like animal. But they like to be on deeper water, on bigger rocks, so I don't think we're going to see any tonight. But yeah, that's kind of a fun joke to make. Let's see. Here's another good rock for finding crabs. And sure enough, these are green shore crabs we're looking at here. They have a wide variety of colors that they can take on. They're not necessarily always green. Like this one's over here has got this white and kind of black pattern to them. And they start out really, really tiny. So here's one. Can you just see that tiny one scuttling up there? What I love to point out about these crabs is that their legs are on the sides of their body, so they really kind of move left to right instead of forward or backward. And that's important to take into consideration if you're going to hold these animals. And my rule of thumb is any animal smaller than your thumb is not going to harm you. Even with big pinchers, they're not able to really grab. They are strong, but they're not really able to get around and get your finger in between their pinchers. So if you want to hold these animals, I recommend that you do so by holding them low to the ground, because they're really quick and they can be surprising in how they move. You're expecting them to move forwards or backwards, and instead they scooch to the side and fall from your hand, which we don't want. Kind of like you jumping off of a building or falling out of a tree or something like that. That would be disastrous, right? So our little crabs, we want to be really careful with them. So let me put their rock back carefully. And let's go see if we can find anything else. That rain squall has hit a little bit, so it's getting a little damp. But I'll hang in here with you guys, see if we can't see anything else. Otherwise, we'll call it a night. It is cold and wet out here. Let's see. We're approaching the time of year when we would begin to see lots of mating behavior for a lot of these species. Many of the animals here in the Salish Sea are reproducing in the spring. So kind of right after our, when the days start getting longer, we'll start to see reproductive behavior. In particular, these snails like to gather in big groups. This is a dogwinkle snail. This looks like a lined dogwinkle, but we also see the frilled dogwinkle snails. And this one's going to withdraw totally into its shell and show us that operculum on the back there. That's a little trap door. It has little growth rings on it. It's hard to count, but I think I see 3 or 4. So there you go. These ones get about 2 inches across. The crabs that we were seeing also about 2 inches for those green shore crabs that are not necessarily green. Their species name for those crabs is Hemigrapsis oregonensis, so you could also call them the Oregon shore crab. Although being up here in Washington, those guys are found all the way up to Alaska too. So we can roll back our rock here and see a few more. Oh, here we go. This is a cool species I can talk about. Okay, you probably don't even see what I'm talking about. It takes kind of an educated eye to see these little brown blobs. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 of these. These are barnacle-eating nudibranchs. They are a type of sea slug that eats barnacles. And they don't get very large because they need to be able to hide kind of in and among the barnacles. So maybe about 1.5 inches is as large as we see these ones. Oh, there's a few more up here and over here. They come in this kind of brown mottly color so that they can blend in, or occasionally we do see them and they're kind of whitish. But they eat barnacles. They kind of scrape through the barnacle shell. They have a radula similar to other mollusks like moon snails, and they eat those barnacles. Oh, carefully set that back the right way. One of the reasons we turn rocks over after we've looked is because the animals that are underneath there often need the protection of that rock. Those little squishy sea slugs, if I were to turn that over and leave it turned over, they would be exposed, and predators could eat them, or they could be damaged by the waves or something like that. So we want to be kind of extra careful with them. Nobody really hiding here, at least nothing big. Lots of barnacles. But that's pretty typical of every rock on the beach in this zone, especially. Alright, let's go check out this piece of driftwood. This is a big, heavy, waterlogged old tree. It's got some algae growing on it. Both the red algae, this little filamentous red, and the green algae. This looks like madrona tree based on the way that it's kind of contorted and the color of the bark there, and it's really smooth. One of my favorite species of trees around here. Makes really excellent firewood because it's very, very dense and hard. And it's beautiful when you split it. But you have to split it when it's freshly cut, otherwise it hardens and it's just about impossible. Let's see. Okay, we've got lots of these little rocks, lots of shore crabs, more flatworms. Anybody else hiding in there? Usually I'm looking for movement, but because it's nighttime and it's dark, we might not see very much movement out here tonight. Let's see. There's a lot of large rocks down this section of the beach, but I don't want to get injured. My hands are already getting a little bit scraped up by these barnacles on these small rocks. I don't want to go too hard with it. Here's a larger barnacle. This one right here is very, very big. And then on the outside of the large barnacle, there are smaller barnacles. And as we look at this rock, we can see areas where barnacles used to be living. So each one of these little holes here, these little white splotches, is the bottom growth plate of one of the barnacles. And this happens when we have predation, or maybe it could have been like a physical trauma of like waves crashing and rolling the rocks around and breaking up those. But most likely when you see more than one and they're kind of in these round splotches, that's predation by sea stars. Not always, but sometimes. Here's a cool find. This is kelp. And what we're looking at here is we have the rock and then this hold fast. This is what's anchoring the kelp down so that it's not going to wash up. Kelp is a lower level algae. It likes to be in the subtidal kind of areas or right at the edge. And it has this beautiful kind of brown coloration. It's very smooth and slippery. Kelp's actually used in a lot of foods because of that kind of slimy property that it has. It makes for good kind of texture manipulation. So if you eat much ice cream, you've probably eaten kelp. Alginine and carrageenan are what it's listed as on the ingredients, and it makes it nice and smooth. Let's see. The waves are really picking up. It is blustery out here. I'm going to head back and check in with our team and see how far the tide has gone down, if they're able to make any progress. And I'm going to try not to fall. This is a really pretty algae here. Little red spaghetti. Make pancakes with it. Ooh, interesting. I've heard of kelp chocolate cake because it makes for a really moist cake. Something about the molecules of the kelp holding on to the moisture of the batter. I haven't tried it myself. I've also heard of salsa, where you can incorporate it into a spicy tomato and vegetable kind of mix for a salsa. That's pretty good. I've tried bull kelp marmalade, and I gotta say I'm not a fan, because I like my marmalade on toast, warmed up. And when we tried it, it tastes like warm low tide. And it's probably a combination of the smell of the kelp and the temperature. So it was not my favorite thing. But you gotta try everything once. You never know when you're gonna try your next favorite food. All right, we're getting a little bit more algae exposed here. That's always good. Let's see. Sometimes I like to look around the edges of these larger rocks to see if there's any creatures hanging out. I can spy a little crab down in there. Oh, he sees us. He's on to us. Got a few more of these shore crabs just hanging about. All right. Oh yeah, we're getting more eelgrass. That's good. Gotta try to be careful and not really step and wade through it. Rehydrating dried algae. I know algae is very nutrient dense. Like there's a lot of vitamins and minerals in it, and a lot of people will take it as a supplement for their diet, which is kind of cool. Here's a chitin, a snail-like organism that lets algae and things grow on its back, so it's fairly well camouflaged. You really only know you're looking at an animal because it's round. They have 8 plates across their back, and then they have this fleshy girdle on the sides that kind of holds it all together, and then there's a suction cup foot at the base of that. And we've got some sargassum weed here, and some scientists doing a little photo survey. This is important because it provides a little bit of visual data. We do our best to record all the different animals within these quadrats, but it's possible that we might miss something. And so this is a great way for our scientists to visually record kind of exactly what was happening. And I noticed while they were talking, there's another chitin here. See that one right here. All right, let's head this way and check with Stina. How's it going?
Good.
What'd you find? What'd you find? Ooh, Joanne found cool things. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous. What a nice color. Posing. Ooh, that is a big one. So we were just looking at woody chitins on the rocks. That was that first species. But look at the size of this one. They have a kind of bristly girdle on the outside, but we can easily see the plates that are here. A really nice big species. These animals tend to just stick on a rock and hang out. They usually don't leave their rock if it meets their needs, and so they'll crawl around at night and scrape various algae and kind of whatever's on the rock they'll eat, and then they follow their slime trail right back. Oh, there is a tiny clam. Here's some scale for you. We're talking tiny on this little clam, but cool to see these little things down in the sand. We also have a variety of tube worms here. Quite a good number of tube worms. Man, okay, stuff like this drives me crazy because I get all excited because I see something red or something that stands out in shape and doesn't match the rest of the environment, and then it's a plant. Leaves drive me crazy. But I do see this right here. This is evidence of moon snail activity in the area. This is a clam that's been eaten by a moon snail. All right, let's head this way. I know there's a patch of some really pretty red algae that grows here. So more of this red spaghetti succulent seaweed here. Sea noodles is their other common name. Let's see. Here's a good find. This is a molt of a red rock crab. And I can tell it's a molt because it's just going to open right up for us. There is no one home on the inside. The animal that was in here has moved on and gotten bigger. So this one, molts are a great way to get up close and personal with a crab without having to worry about getting pinched. And the crab, when it leaves this shell behind, is going to take everything with it. So the eyes are hollow and empty. These mouth parts are really delicate parts. Everything goes with the little crab. Is a chitin related to a pillbug or roly-poly? No, although they can do that same kind of articulating move where they can conform and adjust the same way they can roll up. Roly-polies are, at least the ones that I know, there are several species that kind of do this similar thing. They are isopods, which is a type of crustacean that's actually like a crab or a shrimp, but that is adapted to live on land. So that's kind of neat. So closely related, more closely to this one than the chitins. Oh, here's one. Look at that. And this one's moving slightly, slowly, very slowly. They're snail relatives after all, so they're not going to be super slow. But these guys they're mollusks, so they're related to things like clams, octopus, mussels, oysters, and snails, and they're in the Polyplacophora group. I almost said gastropods, which are the snails. They're a little bit different, but similar in that they have one foot that they crawl on. And they all have a radula. It just takes different forms. But yeah, this crab shell is kind of fun because we can look really up close. This one is a male that has molted, and we can look at this tail flap right here. It's tall and it's pointed, and it doesn't touch the legs on either side, which tells us that it's a male. I can also tell it's a male because the pinchers are fairly large relative to the rest of the crab's body. They kind of have oversized pinchers a bit, whereas the females will have smaller pinchers. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us for this terrible, cold, wet winter beach monitoring season. We really appreciate all the likes and comments and questions that we've gotten, all the shares. It's hard not to be able to do public programs, so we're happy to be able to have this digital platform where we can connect with you all. So thanks for all the love. I think I'm going to sign off now, but thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon.